What's good, Relocation Football League fans? It's your boy Smitty in the booth here with Pecan for episode 2. I forgot to change that up here, but the thumbnail had 2 on it. But this is episode 2, not episode 1 of the RFL College Series podcast. And of course, this is a big one because we got to see our first week of games in CS5. We're going to recap them all. And before we do that, Pecan, how you feeling? And what was your thoughts overall on week 1?
Week one was a pretty fun weekend, man. We got to see some surprises. Is the year of the running quarterback back? That could be a big one as well. We got to see some shockers and, some pretty good games to end the week 2 after we had some blowouts to start the new year. But it was a pretty exciting weekend. But all I know is that RFL College Series football is finally back and it's better than ever.
Yeah, CS5, man, I was excited. I was commenting that a little bit on, some live games, saying how excited I was just for games, outcomes, and stuff, and the energy we felt. A lot of people showed up, man. Shout out to the RFL community, the guys who showed up to the game. We had many games that were live where we had great attendance. So I just want to give a shout out to you guys. Let's get hashtag CS5, hashtag League First, whatever you guys want to put in the chat. Big shout out to the RFL community. Big ups for week 1, man. Hopefully the same energy continues here moving into week 2. But let's go ahead and recap those week 1 games. First starting off with, of course, the game at Ohio State taking on TCU, the 2-time national champions. Went head-to-head with the TCU Horned Frogs. First half was competitive. It's very competitive. We were like, okay, TCU might be a little something, But, of course, in the second half, and I was kind of saying it during the live game, I was like, I think that Ohio State's going to start to separate themselves, and boy, they did. And it was this play right here by Ferragamo that really set the tone as the Buckeyes won 37-3. What's your takeaways and breakdown of this game?
31 points in the second half, Smitty. 31 points to 0. And I'm pretty sure, I think they scored 34 unanswered points because it was tied 3-3. But Ohio State, they got off to a slow start. It was like a very feeling out process in that first half. There's some key plays that they could have scored, and then there is just times where TCU just felt like that they just couldn't get anything going, but except for a drive. And then the second half started, and Ferragamo put on a big hit, picks up his own ball, and returns it all the way. That pretty much to me was the start of the momentum. And the next 2 drives for TCU, they fumbled the ball. Like all 3 of their main guys, Tanner Hendricks. I can't read his name. I'm trying to remember the running back's name. But DeMarcado, Amir Daniels, all fumbled the ball, and that just gave Ohio State all the momentum that they needed. Props to Dylan Lewis, who had a heck of a first game, man. I mean, he threw 310 yards, 3 touchdowns. And that receiving core, let me just say, that receiving core, if everyone thought that our core for the last 2 years was one of the best, I think this core is going to be even better. And Kentaro finally got his shot in the wide receiver 1 slot, 5 catches for 82 yards. We also got to see Arturo Flores, the new tight end, for 6 catches and 72 yards. But my roommate, man, he came out and showed up big with 10 catches, 117 yards, and a touchdown. But there were some drops, though, that he should have had. And we talked about this, and I kind of gave him some stuff here, but I was like, the first one is inexcusable because you was wide open in the end zone. You should have had that. But the second one, I'm not willing to put too much on him because I think that was great coverage more by the defensive back, and he was able to make it up though. But once the passing game got going, Euro Winbush looked like he didn't miss a step. 24 carries for 166 yards. He didn't get in the end zone, but he was showing why everyone thought he was the RB1 going into this year. But Kiden Ferragamo, he impressed. And even though everyone was talking about Brewer and Russell Shackelford, guy that impressed me the most on that line
Wyatt
was
Harris, right?
Wyatt Harris. That
Wyatt
guy was
Harris was going
causing
crazy.
trouble, man. He had
Yeah,
the big hit that caused the fumble. He also got in there and pressure Tanner that
throw his
got him to
only
throw the
interception.
pick.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think Wyatt Harris kind of got overlooked because of the two new DNs that they had got. But the only thing that I will say for Ohio State is that I would like to see them get a lot more pressure from that defensive line. Maybe the TCU offensive line is really good, um, and play 4 quarters of football compared to to just playing a second half. But they had a dominant second half, to begin the year. To speak on the Horn Frog side, I mean, they ran into a buzzsaw. They lost everybody, and we kind of said, like, they don't have Miles, they don't have Devontre Sharkley, they don't have Amari Harris, they don't have Zeno, Rex McCullough, all of those guys that
Giovanni
were
Diggs,
Giovanni
Christopher Luma.
Diggs, all of those guys who were essential to their CS4 core of what get them to the Big 12 title game is all gone. They would have had Denver D. Costa back, but that's a whole nother story. But I don't think the TCU should really feel down. They just ran into a buzzsaw in their very first game of the year. I thought Tanner looked all right at times. We can see that he can run, and he can run well. It's just he got hit pretty big when he did run, but I don't think, the sky is falling yet for the Horned Frogs. So, but Ohio State, man, they had a great first game of the year. I know I was very happy with the result. 160 live viewers, I think I saw at one point during the game. So it was a great showing.
Yeah, great showing indeed. Touched on all the points that I would have probably talked about. So good coverage there. And for guys to try to get a gist of how this is going to go, I'm mainly just going to leave it up for Pat to try to break down the games a little bit more. I'll give my introduction and my thoughts a little bit on like whatever is a shock or whatever, then have him go more into detail. Anything I feel he misses, then I'll just go ahead and talk on that. But good talking points and explanation in my opinion on this. And Ohio State showing why they're the number one team in the second half. I will say that, just like you said. Good thing you brought that up.
Very rusty first half. Very rusty first half. Got to let the new guys gel in. Got to let them gel in. But do not sleep on the Horned Frogs, guys. I do not think this is a slouch team at all. Even though they only have two guys there, I think with the talent and the 2022 rosters, I think they'll still be able to compete.
All right, moving on to the second game. We had our first SEC matchup. This was our first conference meeting of the season as Tennessee traveled to take on the Auburn Tigers. And Tennessee and Tyon got it done, man. Got those for 4 touchdowns. And, didn't look like he missed a step. He's got more better weapons, in my opinion, than he did the following year. So Tennessee kind of, in a sense, just seeing that showing when I first had the top 25, I had these guys over Georgia. Of course, we'll talk more about Georgia. That's the headline kind of this podcast here. But this is a reason why I had them in that number 2 spot. I think this team looks really good. Their defense is so much better compared to last year because their defense last year was just absolutely atrocious. They got quite a bit of submits there, and you could see the big difference. And they end up walking out victorious and 1-0 in the SEC, going for 41-23 is the final score. Another thing too, this is the only SEC loss in the conference.
That was another point that I had in my notes
won.
that they literally went 7-1 this week, and the only loss was to another SEC team.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, you could go ahead and dive into your take from this. Don Beck, he did throw for 400 yards, which you can see right there. Big 3 on the interceptions department.
How many of that were probably through garbage yards too? Like that is the whole entire thing that I always try to tell folks that stats don't always tell the whole entire story. But it did feel like with Don Beck though, like to kind of touch on the whole Auburn thing really quick. And it felt like any time that they had momentum, because there was a pick that they got that Tyon threw, or they got a stop, and it felt like Auburn was starting to get some momentum and drive. Don Beck just throws a pick,
Yeah.
like at the worst time, and then what does Tennessee do right after they go down the field and score? Tyon, man, he showed exactly why everyone, to some why they're saying he's the QB1 going into this year, and 22 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Every cornerback is going to throw a pick, but still very impressive showing. But the new weapon that I was impressed with the most is J.D. Calhoun. That guy has some jets. There's a reason why I was raving about him the week before, because I really think he's going to be good. Can't say his last name, Smitty.
Zachowitz. And I probably ain't the
Moss, an
best.
Auburn
Yeah.
defensive back in
He's a
that game. That
dog.
was crazy.
Probably not the best guy with names, of course. We just talked about that before the podcast. There's a couple
We'll
guys'
go
names
into
I
that
botched.
later
But
on.
but yeah, Zachowitz, and just to even talk about that
He had a
the
great
team,
game.
yeah, great game. You see 2 touchdowns, 86 yards, but the weapons associated with him is just built to do anything, right? You got, if everything hits the fan and you need to throw the ball up, get the ball off, you got to do Zachowitz. And he can run routes and still make plays regardless. So he's just pretty much a do-it-all wide receiver, your number one. And you got Hakeem Prince, which, he had a great first game as well. He can make some big catches, and he's pretty much like the more balanced guy. Not, he can do just about everything, kind of like Zachowitz, but Zachowitz is more so that guy. You throw up that jump ball, he's going to get it. Then you got the speed in J.D. Calhoun. So, like, they got that. They also got the tight end in Charlie Dotson, who made some big
Charlie
plays.
Dodson, who also had a pretty big game and got his first ever touchdown in the college series.
Yeah, and then Jordan Duke ran very well as well. So it's like this entire offense is just stacked with talent around a kid that, with less talent last year, was able to really show his, why people talked about him so early with just being able to play in 8 games and going 6-2. So I mean, it's just
He showed
incredible.
up and showed why folks are hype on this guy, and that receiving core almost reminds me of the CS4 Ohio State core that we had, where Calhoun, he's the burner, the big play threat that you have with Caleb. You have Bryce, who's your guy that kind of does everything like me, and then Prince almost reminds me of what Ken Tara was for us last year in the third spot. But Jordan Duke actually had a very impressive showing as well, because there was times at West Virginia last year where he didn't really stand out, even with all the weapons that they had on that Mountaineers team. But this team, I feel like, allows Jordan Duke to play to his strengths and everything. I want to touch up on the defensive side and say Errol Matthews and Sean Moore, the cornerback, and Sean Moore, the linebacker. I thought they had very impressive day abuse, and you touched up on how Tennessee, they didn't have any like that defensive talent to help them, and that's why they lost those games. But you have two key guys that I think that are going to be very huge for the Volunteers, and Errol Matthews and Sean Moore. So nothing. I mean, there's nothing else I could say about this Tennessee team except rave for how they looked in their first game. This Auburn team, man, if you're an Auburn fan, just hope that they give the ball to Spears 30 times a game.
Yeah, definitely was upsetting. They only gave him the ball 9 times. He did find the end zone on a nice run inside. And I kind of feel like that's what Auburn needs to do. I called that out many times during the game. I'm like, hey, we got to see if Don Beck was a
Give the
solid
ball to.
quarterback. I mean, of course, it's just game one, but it don't look like it. And so
It
I
didn't
think we need
look
to give it to
good. It didn't
Spears.
look. It didn't look good for Don Beck. It feels like if I'm an Auburn fan, every time that they run, I say yes. Every time they pass, I say no.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to feel with Don Beck for the
His
rest
connection
of
with his tight end though, Schenker, was crazy. You see 14
He is
receptions, 150
pretty
yards.
impressive. He had 2 catches in that game that I wish that they had a replay for that were insane.
Yeah.
Oh, and also be aware, guys, if you play on the Auburn field, photos are gonna the whole replays thing that we saw on Friday night. This is another field that experienced it a lot.
Yeah, which definitely sucks. Still got some good photos out of it, but definitely was shorted a little bit. Let's go ahead into the premiere game. So we now have, instead of Super Saturday, which it used to be, where we used to have all our premiere games on that day. It's just way too many for the college series. This might even be the whole thing. This might even carry over into the RFL, since now we will have all of our games and no auto wins. So it's going to call it just Super Game Day Weekend. I guess we could call it right now for college football. And we dive into the 1 p.m. games here, getting a look at the scores. Upsets, man. There was quite a few upsets in these premier games. Oklahoma State beating Washington. Washington were the favorites to get it done at home. They lose 24-21. You had USC, even though they got it done against Iowa. Iowa put up a bit of a fight, 14 points away. They did cover the spread as expected, though. USC did. 35-21 was the final score there. And then kind of got a bit of a very upsetting loss for Arizona State.
Which everyone thought was possibly going to be a sneaky game of the week. Even
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and Louisville just absolutely dominated, ran away. It was a brutal first half. Guys just really couldn't get anything going. But then it was just a ton of mistakes. 5 interceptions by Dobrynia. And 5 points on the board. Guys were talking about that. That was ridiculous. 35 the final score there. Touch up on any one of these games you want to go into depth, but that's just my brief take. This is how I'm going to go through the premier games, guys, and I'm going to just let Pecan go in, and then if there's anything I want to touch upon, like I mentioned earlier, I'll jump in.
Yeah, I'll go really quick, except the one game that I really want to touch up on that I think we all want to talk about more on. Washington, what happened? What happened there? People are saying Austin Hargraves say Spencer Saunders is the greatest quarterback, to play in the college series. But really quick to touch up on that, I meant the guy, 259 yards passing, 86 rushing yards. He had a passing touchdown and rushing touchdown as well. Guys, we're going to touch this up more. I think the year of the running quarterback is back in the college series, and we'll talk about that on another game too. But congrats to Oklahoma State, man. Was not expecting them to pull that out. But Washington, I think we expected more. So let's see how it goes for next week. Cinco Cardenas,
Yeah,
he
match the
threw
jersey
4 touchdown
Not the name,
passes in this game. He's got a dog over there, Ajon Grant. That guy looks like a beast for him too.
2 touchdowns for him in that game.
10 catches for 88 yards. What a great debut for Cinco Cardenas for USC. I know he had the struggles there in Death Valley. Yeah, so just really glad to see that. Iowa fan in the RFL, or is he just a RFL YouTube commentator?
Yeah, just a Iowa fan that just shows up. Like he definitely is a big time Iowa fan.
We're seeing him everywhere too, and I gotta give him some props, man. To be an Iowa fan, and anyone that watched real life Iowa knows who that quarterback is. That was an offense that struggles to score points with Petrus at quarterback. I feel for that Iowa RFL, man, because it's going to be a tough year. USC, they also got 5 sacks and 1 pick six. They only had 36 rushing yards as well. And this is going to be a tough year for the Hawkeyes. But USC, man, pretty impressive, though. But I definitely want to see USC play against
better comp.
Somebody, though. I'm not going to be all my chips are on USC, but I definitely think this was a good debut for Cinco, though. But the game I really want to go into, because it had the most users out of these games, man, Louisville and Arizona State. 5, you threw as many picks as you guys had points.
Just know the bell's
That's
playing. I know you can't hear it, but I got the
I
bells
know,
going.
but they threw as many picks as you had points. You don't see that often.
Yeah.
Um, really credit before we touch up on what really went wrong for Arizona State here. Steve Washington for
Did his thing.
Louisville. He looks like he's going to be the guy for them. Very quiet game for Reno Hightower. I was kind of expecting more for him against this Arizona State defense. But he had Steve Washington. He had 132 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game. If I'm Louisville, that is going to seem to be the plan the whole entire year is to give him the ball. But even Malik Cunningham, man, like he can run the ball out too. So Louisville seems like they are going to be a running team. The thing is, man, ASU, they had more yards and had the ball a lot more than Louisville did. Yet they still lost by 25.
Yeah. The turnovers,
Yeah.
of course, killed them. They had some
Yes.
moments going, but yeah, those interceptions were very costly. Hopefully next week to get things shifted around.
And that O line for Arizona State. The other thing is too is that if I'm Vladimir Dubrenya, I'm going to try and recruit some offensive linemen because this is a Louisville defense that you allowed to sack you 6 times in this game. So if I'm an Arizona State fan, I am worried about how my offensive line is going to look throughout the whole entire year. I mean, they also went 5 for 13 on third down. You got to convert those, but obviously the really big story is, I mean, your first debut game, and you come out there throwing 5 picks, and we kind of had some hype for him too.
Yeah, cause yeah, we
He's got
comes
the
back.
Russian
That
face,
was tough.
the Russian dance and
Yeah.
everything. We all thought it was going to be a great game, and it ended up turning into a snoozer of a game, unless you're a Louisville fan. So, congrats to the Cardinals, man. You guys are 1-0 on the year, and Steve Washington. I can't wait to continue to watch how he plays. So.
And not going to escape this bell, Washington, even though I brought it up. Got to get that bell for the hell. So this is usually where the bells start coming out, guys. Get ready. We just
You
getting warmed
can't
up.
lose to Oklahoma State, man. You
Oklahoma
can't
State
lose
is
to
better,
Oklahoma.
though. I will say that because in
Hey,
real
they
life they are
are.
actually pretty solid. But yeah, we were expecting you guys to pull that out, man. That was tough. All right, now moving on to the 4 p.m. games, we had LSU hosting Florida State, and they were able to handle things. Kind of started out slow, but they start to really separate towards the end, and as the game progressed, 24-7 the final score. Another bell we got to hand out. The OU, man, Oklahoma taking an L to Texas A&M, 20-10 first game. That was very upsetting, shocking, and again another upset. And then of course I would have to say the biggest upset of the week, Florida coming back and defeating Baylor after they were down 17-31. Got to play the bell for the Bears. And man, AR-15 absolutely took over the game, just running at will, and
Irony in
he just
that.
absolutely took. I know, right? And he just absolutely took over. Took advantage of the man-to-man coverage when these guys were playing man. Dude was out, and it was just like, yo, how do we stop this guy? They were hoping for a spy to get called, just wasn't. And like you said, this might be the year of the scrambling quarterbacks. Man, I know you're going to get into it, but we've seen a lot of guys take off and advantage of that situation.
Really quick to touch up on 2 games, even though there's one that I kind of want to dive in a bit more, but I'll keep it brief for the other game. Yeah, LSU, they didn't really impress. They just went out there and won the game. That's pretty much what I got out of that game. John Emery, man, that's going to be LSU's guy for the whole entire year. He had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown as well. He also ran for 117 yards. One thing I will give LSU credit for, very efficient in the red zone. And if you're a team that gets into the red zone, you have to turn those into 6. So congrats to LSU, man. Sorry, FSU. I still think maybe with Jordan Travis at the helm, they can be better. But I mean, LSU is stacked too. Like, this was a hard team for FSU to face. This one let me down. I expected way more from the Sooners here. Avery Rhodes, 2 picks, only 1 touchdown in this game. This team had a lot of hype. Jalen Cooper, who we had a lot of hype for, 13 rushes for 54 yards. Not the debut I was expecting from them at all. And OU's running game was virtually non-existent after 2 years of D'Amico Brewer.
Yeah.
It was kind of a shock to see like that they didn't have like a running game at all. And you know, this is the insane part though. Texas A&M, they literally did 104 rushing yards to Oklahoma's 55 rushing yards. Texas A&M was able to run all the way down the field, and even Max Johnson, their quarterback, who threw for 271 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game, was not expecting the Aggies to pull this one out. But the Sooners, man, we expected a lot from you guys. Probably have relatively one of the lightest schedules this year compared to other teams, but to start out 0-1, the Aggies, who haven't been the best team in the college series, that's not what you want to see.
Yeah.
This game, like,
Yeah, Jay just sent me a message in Discord trying to update the Florida State logo.
is it updated? I can't see it.
I can't even. No, it's not. But he's telling me for next week to use it. But it's like barely it's the smallest difference. But I guess he likes the new version better. We'll try to get that right. I think I already recorded you guys' game though, so we'll see.
Yeah. So Florida and Baylor, man. So Florida actually started out with the lead 17-7 in this game. Baylor was then able to come back and score 24 unanswered points, and then the fourth quarter began, and then AR 15, man, close case. You guys could not stop it. Yeah, I know. It's corny. It's corny.
Close case. Hey, it's in the theme song, man.
But I mean, 27 for 34, 279 yards, 1 passing touchdown. But here's the other thing: 110 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns against this Baylor defense, man. Baylor for years has been known as the defensive team. They don't let you run all over you, and this was kind of a shock. I mean, it almost feels like a reverse of the identity for Baylor and stuff like that, because they've mainly been known for their defensive prowess for the last 2 years and 3 years, really. And just to see defense give up, and they gave up 176 rushing yards in this game. Even the running back got himself in that game as well. But another thing that I think is going to be something to watch out for, we all know about the Baylor block party. It's been a thing here for the last 2 years. 5 sacks.
Yeah.
Jordan Granger, man. I don't know if this is the same Baylor block party that we have used to seeing. So that offensive line looks like it's going to be a struggle point for Baylor this year. But for Baylor, man, going up 31-17 in the fourth, you guys got to close that out. Had the game. You guys had a chance, and even though I will say he had a impressive showing in his first ever game, Shamir Williams, 11 catches for 158 yards, but the last thing that we all remember from this game, we're not going to remember that you had a great game and the stats. We're going to remember that your fumble was the one that got Florida to be able to get back into the game and win the game. And this was a shock. I mean, Florida scored 21 unanswered points to end the fourth. I mean, this was a game that, if I'm a Big 12 fan, I'm very disappointed with how this whole weekend looked, because the two teams that we think at the end of the year are going to be in the Big 12 title game come out and lose, and but still, it's not the end of the world. It's only week 1 for OU and Baylor. There's still plenty of time, but If I'm Baylor, I got some concerns for the defensive side of the ball, and especially the secondary at times too. I think there was a play. Was it Rodney Goins? I think I saw that got spotted there in that
Yeah, he
game. I
got
can't.
he got bean topped. He definitely got. I got to play the bell for that because everybody
That was
pointed that
tough
out to me.
because
Yeah,
that was on a drive where Florida went to go tie the game as well. So and they got Florida. That was if I'm a Baylor fan, man, that is a tough one to swallow in the first game of the year. But just like I said, it's not the end of the world. Bunch of things could turn around. But as we talk about, man, the SEC 3-0 right here.
yeah. All right, then we move into our primetime game that we had on that Saturday, and boy, Michigan made a statement here. Some returners coming back, and then of course a guy's name who I was saying was McNamara. You said that's how you're supposed to say it. I've been calling him
Mac.
McNamara.
Oh, no, you were saying I forget.
I was saying
No,
McNamara.
it's Cade McNamara.
McNamara. Okay, McNamara is how you say his name. Sounds like two names in one, man. It's very
Yeah,
weird
if
to
you
me.
go watch the
Uh,
Wisconsin this game, he was saying it wrong the
I
whole
was saying
entire game, and
McNamara.
I couldn't comment on it because I was like busy, but I was just when I heard, I went back and watched. I was like, yeah, that's not his name.
Yeah. And yeah, so Michigan though absolutely handled business in this game, man. JT Cheeseborough returning generic, absolute dog in this game. I mean, just there's nothing that Michigan could do wrong just about in this game. And there is, I still feel like this kind of undermines how solid of a team that Wisconsin is because I kind of feel like, I mean, I don't think they're a bad team. It's just that Michigan might just actually be just that good this year. And if that's the case, man, that just adds a lot to the competition pool now in the Big Ten because I mean they've been facing you guys and just about every year in the Big Ten to kind of win the conference championship to come out like this. And I know it's Wisconsin guys will say in the past, but this isn't the same Wisconsin team. I mean, this is a base 86 team with a couple generics coming back that are actually dogs. You can see Tevin Corbett came with 6 receptions, 103 yards, and a touchdown. He was going off. He more so went off on that one big play though, because I'm honestly say they had him strapped
They had
for the
him
most part throughout this
strapped
game.
up. Him
Yeah,
and Jones were pretty much strapped the whole
yeah.
entire
It is
game.
only Devin Peppers, the slot wide receiver, who's going off making the most plays within this game, and that goes to show you that means them outside corners must be the real deal this year. So yeah, you can go ahead dive into this game. Michigan gets it done, man. 49-17.
Wisconsin, you let me down, man. Come on. Here is the thing about this Wolverine team is like, last year they were that team where they lost to teams that they shouldn't have lost to, yet they were beating all of the teams that like, oh yeah, they are
Yeah,
going to get smashed. But then I mean, what they beat UNC, they beat Clemson, they beat
I think
Georgia,
they
they
beat
beat
Baylor too.
Bay,
Yeah.
like like they were winning games that we all thought that they were going to lose, but then they lose to Maryland or Penn State, and it was just weird, because it always felt like they were such a Jekyll and Hyde. You didn't know what you were going to get with them, but this is a completely different Wolverine team, man. I had a feeling with the 2022 rosters. I was like, something in my
Michigan gonna
gut
do
is
better.
telling me that this is going to be a way better team than whatever base that they had back in 2019 or 2020 because these guys came and played a whole four quarters, even though the very first snap was a pick.
Yeah.
We kind of thought, all right, I guess Wisconsin, let's see what you can do. But you cannot let Graham Mertz throw the football 50 times in this game if you want to win Wisconsin. Is this running back? Landry's gone, so they
Yeah.
don't have him anymore. And if Wisconsin is going to want to win games, they need to give the ball to their back a lot more and not have Graham Mertz throwing the ball 50 times a game.
Yeah, Braylon
Um,
Allen. And then also, like, I get why the high volume of passes at the same time
because they
because
started to
they were
go
down
down.
heavy. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
so
it's like you
I
couldn't even
understand.
rely on
Yeah,
Allen at that point. But so we really don't have a good glimpse of what it is that Wisconsin can do. I mean, I just feel like Michigan has proven a point that they are that much better this year, and they
that
might
this is
actually be a
not
problem.
your CS4, CS3 Austin Briley Wolverine team.
Yeah,
You know, this isn't that era
it's
anymore.
McNamara, boy.
McNamara, man, 4
McNamara.
touchdowns, and he was efficient too. I mean, he did throw 2 picks, but 17 for 21 for 233 yards. I mean, anytime they got in the red zone that they scored on, and their defense looked really good. They had 5 sacks in this game. Even had a scoop and score there at the end to make it. I think it was 49-7. You know, and that was just a very impressive showing. I hated every single minute of it, but it's a
Yeah,
very impressive showing for the Wolverines, and you know, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes for the rest of the year.
yeah, and what's it called?
I gotta
That
say,
wide receiver
JT
Wilson
Cheese
was,
for him.
yeah, JT Cheezer was killing
Finally
Wilson.
getting his shot after being behind J.C. Johnson for for the last 2 years. And anytime that he got on the field, he always played well. It's just
Yeah,
J.C. Johnson was the number one guy. And now that he's finally gotten his shot, the man proved big time. And for the Wolverines, man, I will say this, over 201 rushing yards in this game. This team can run the ball. So if you're a defense that can't stop the run, this is not a team that I would want to play.
and they got a solid backup that's a 95 overall. That's actually higher overall than JT Cheeseborough. His name is Torrey Truman, and so it looks like
He's a
Michigan,
generic
and he's a
back, yeah.
generic, so he's draftable. So it's like they've got that same deal like last year, where you got two talents. Truman might be Cheeseborough might be one of the top backs coming into this year's draft, and then next year Truman takes over
Going
the
to
show.
be Truman, yeah.
Yeah, so
So this is going to be a fun year, but that Wilson kid, just like you said, at wide receiver, he had a pretty big game, and he looked impressive too.
dumb
So
fast. Dumb fast. Still got to get the bell for Wisconsin. You get blown out like this, you got to get the bell. You don't escape. All right, so then we move on to our second set of premier games, and on our Saturday 1 p.m. games, we had Maryland defeating Stanford 30-13. Then Alabama, kind of shocked by the final score. I mean, this was the number 2 team in the country,
yeah, I
and
kind
they
of
only beat
expected more
UCLA.
there.
Yeah, 24-10 was the final score there. And we had a really good game in the Battle of the Carolinas here, North and South. South Carolina ended up walking out victorious there towards the end, 34-27. Thoughts on these games?
The Maryland and Stanford game was kind of a bit of a boring one. I kind of thought that game would at least been a bit better, especially knowing how Stanford has kind of played the last few years. But if anyone knows, the Maryland's quarterback is Tua's brother.
Yeah.
So if you guys watch the Maryland game, just know that is
You say his name,
legitimately
Tulia Tagovailoa?
Tagovailoa.
Yeah, I don't know the first name. I know it's Tagovailoa is the last
He did
name.
have the biggest game in the world. I mean, only for 17 for 26, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game. But the main guys I want to touch up on,
Mitch Kazalatov, running back.
Zoltov. He
Mazel
had a
Tov
pretty
Kazalatov. Got a nickname, my boy.
Mazel
Fire.
Tov
Pun
Kazalatov.
intended. Yeah.
Mazel Tov Kazalatov.
Fire.
16 rushes, 76 yards. Pretty good game for him. And Maryland is the team of last names, because who's the receiver's name? I can't
Christian
remember.
Bachagalupi, former head coach of the Crusaders for a
Gotcha.
couple seasons. Yep.
Bachagalupi.
Bachagalupi. Yeah.
He catches 55 yards and a touchdown in that game. Stanford, the only thing that I will say, you guys probably do have a good receiver there in Elijah Higgins with 5 catches for 11 for 113 yards. But I know we have seen him in the chats, man, and I got to give you a lot of props. And I really hope that you stick it out, even though this might be a tough year, man, because
Talking about Finn Fowler.
Finn Yeah.
Yeah.
He had as many catches as Stanford had points.
Let's play the bell.
I just realized that he had as many catches as he had points for the
That's actually a
Stanford
good thing.
team.
I don't even know why I played. I guess I'll play the bell because he turned up and he
Or
still
for
lost.
his whole entire team, but not for Finn. Finn, that's a great showing, man. 13 catches for 86 yards. I mean, I hope you stick with it, man, because it looks like it's going to be a very tough
Tight ends
year.
are eating. Definitely going to be eating this year. There's a
And
lot
there's
of
another
tight
guy
ends
that,
at over 100
I
yards. We're
mean,
going to get to
if
him.
there,
Yeah.
Torres was impressive for us, but there was a guy that blew everybody out of the water. Probably one of the funnest games to watch of the weekend was UNC and South Carolina. Battle of real life quarterbacks with Drake May and Spencer
They
Rattler
did
as
Drake May
well.
so dirty with the ratings, man. That
He
was
really
sick.
did, man. He
Yeah,
is
70s.
not.
This was
He's not a
before he had his
73.
season. They had him as a 73, so
Yeah,
it's really affecting UNC. I think if he was where he should be, this UNC team would be completely
if he was
different.
like an 83 or an 84, this I think UNC could have won this game because Spencer Rattler was turning the ball over. He threw 3 picks in this game, but even though Drake May threw a pick, South Carolina on the other side was able to force some key turnovers there with 2 more fumbles on their side. There is a South Carolina wide receiver who had himself a game. Will Stemper,
Stanford,
10,
yep. He's generic.
10 catches for 114 yards and a touchdown in this game. And gotta feel, man, for Jeffrey Rozier, man. You know, him and
Family
Q
guy.
Puck were just chilling in the chats there all by themselves, man, having to watch this game, you know. And I felt bad for Rozier because he was the only one who stayed after everyone who left this UNC team. You know, I think South Carolina is not a bad team by any stretch, but you know, I don't know. It's still so tough to say with this being week one to really get a glimpse of how certain teams are going to play, especially in a game like UNC and South Carolina, though. But I think cornerback play might be biggest problem for UNC as well. But their running back needs to hold on to the ball.
Yeah, we didn't dive in specifically about
Yes,
Alabama though. So,
yeah. This one,
give your thoughts on that. Alabama, 14-point victory sounds good, but I mean UCLA literally was ranked 32, the last ranked team in the college series, and they put up 10 points.
everyone
And
expect,
yeah, I
yeah,
thought it was
like
going to
it's
be a
like
blowout.
we expected so much more. I mean, I expected so much more, but Bama was just like, we got this game. Let's play very vanilla, not show anybody. The new 52 on the defensive side of the ball is not Tyler Cage.
Yeah,
He got mossed in this game, if I remember
yeah.
correct.
Receiver number
No,
19, I don't know his name, but yeah, he moused him on the left side of the
yeah,
field. Yeah,
yeah. So this is not the Tyler Cage in that number, but you know, kind of like what I said for LSU and Florida State. They just kind of came out and win this game. But, you know, Logan Goldsberry, he was 32 for 40, 277 yards. Cager, the running back, 22 carries for 101 yards. You know, the thing is on Logan Goldsberry's, you know, he's kind of a quarterback that you don't know what you're going to get. I've always kind of compared him to kind of like they're like a AJ McCarron type of Alabama cornerback, where it's like he's more of that field type of cornerback where he's not gonna do, what is the word that I'm trying to find for him? Like he's not going to wow you.
yeah.
Like for instance, Ion, Jordan Granger, Dylan Lewis, you know, um, Jaden Young, who we'll talk about more, Ronnie Shanahan, Dorian. Like, he's not going to wow you. He's just Mr. Reliable, Mr. Consistent, but he'll have those games like he did last year where he'll throw a 4 touchdown game and look like one of the best quarterbacks. But how much is that more because of the talent that's around him? But yeah, I expected Alabama to blow the brakes off this team, but they got the job done, 24-10. I think we expected more, but now we're finally going to see them get a real challenge next this upcoming week. So that's all I got to say on that. Except Alabama defense, this team will turn the ball over again. 3 turnovers in this game. Be careful, guys, with the ball against this team.
Yeah, Alabama. I mean, there's definitely stacked with talent. Um, we'll see if next week is just something different. It maybe just came out, was just weren't on the A game. We'll see. And then we finish out with our last premier games that we had on Sunday, 4 p.m. 2 games. We had Penn State versus West Virginia and Clemson versus Texas. West Virginia kind of turned out to be exactly how I thought they were going to be. They absolutely got handled by Penn State. But I'll tell you one thing: Penn State had a lot of field goals in this game. A lot of field goals. They definitely should have
Give
ran it up
credit
with
to
a ton of
Jake
points.
Pinegar or Pinniger. Jake Pinegar, 5 for 5. He had a field goal made in every single yardage, 20, 30, 40, 50. 5 for 5, man. Consistency.
And only a field goal on the board for West Virginia. I know you're the weaker end team, weren't the favorite, but you got to catch the bell for that, my guys. So
Biddy,
yeah.
one more thing on that.
Mm-hmm.
You a bell to West Virginia. They had more kick return yards than total yards.
Oh wow. More kick return. Yeah, I might gotta give them 2 for
They
that.
had 192 kickoff return yards. That was more than they had total offensive yards.
Yeah, let's give them another bell. Let's give them 3 times the charm. That's pretty bad. Yeah, we kind of expected this. We talked about UCLA. They were 32. West Virginia, they were 31.
It might be worse.
Yeah, they could potentially be worse. I still like how Penn State looked from time to time within this game. Definitely would like them to score more touchdowns with those opportunities. But they handled business nonetheless. Then we had Clemson falling short to Texas. This was just a hard-fought battle towards the end. I wanted to see, and again, it kind of shows that Clemson is, again, a talented team that just doesn't look good. And, this probably, guys were, coming at Cinco Cardenas and how he, played within this team. And it's just like, I don't know if it's just the team, man, or what, but Clemson, this is a 91 overall base team. And they just don't play like it. They don't play like it at all. You had DJ Uglia or whatever his name is.
Ugalele.
Yeah, of course, he transferred in real life, but he's on Clemson still in this game, and he's got like a high 90+ overall rating.
He threw over 368 yards in this game too.
And only 16
he had a lot of yards.
It's crazy. Texas, they get it done
2 receivers go over 100 yards in this game. Collins and Henry both had over 100 yards. But this was a game of tale of 2 halves because they had a 13-3 lead half, and then Quinn Ewers in Texas just turned it on, man. They just turned it on. Marvion Overshone, who's back this year. He's been on the Texas team the last 2 years in this college series. 14 tackles and 2 sacks. He's going to be big for this team the whole entire year. I mean, Quinn Ewers didn't have the most exciting game for a quarterback, but he was able to lead this Longhorn team down the field and score and get them to win. And I kind of agree with you, Smitty. It's like this Clemson team, they've been stacked with talent, overall wise, the last 3 years, but I don't know what it's been for them. Because in CS1, CS2, they were a great team, and then something changed. Something just switched.
Yeah.
For this team,
really
and
bad.
Maybe it's not Cinco Cardenas' fault for why this team, has just been playing the way it has, because I feel like they could have easily won this game. Just like I said, you had 2 receivers with over 100 receiving yards, and but another killer, 4 and 12 on 3rd down, and also in the red zone. You have to turn those points into 6 instead of 3. 3 field goals to 1 touchdown in the red zone, and that allowed Texas to get back into this game by not getting into the end zone. But really quick, kind of want to bring this back up on Penn State. 5 sacks for the defense. They also got some studs. Caden Saunders, 9 catches, 143 yards, where he burnt the whole entire sack. I mean, there was a play that he scored on where there wasn't anyone around him.
Yeah, and
Nine
Clifford ran
catches.
all the way to the right, and then he just
Oh
threw
yeah,
it.
that was the other thing. Like across the
Crossbody
field
throw.
throw.
Yeah.
Out of
Yeah.
anything too, and the guy's wide open. 143 yards, 1 touchdown for Caden Saunders. Devin Ford for 119 yards. Eric Alcorn, man, this looks like it's going to be a tough year. Jaws, like I said, got sacked 5 times, 16 for 27, 137 yards. West Virginia, next week, have more offensive yards than kick return yards, because that, when I saw that, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough right there,
They
man.
don't have grooves and
I have a lot of people. They only got 2 guys: a quarterback with Alcorn and a running back with Mikey Moose. He wasn't a Moose that day.
probably calling TD3 and Shea Carroll and Tajay Gaddy like, hey, you want to come back? Because
Call that
it's
boy
not.
Mikey Fawn or whatever right now, because he wasn't a grown moose or animal that day. It was a baby. It
No.
was a baby moose called. We probably can hit him with that whenever he doesn't perform. I
Oh,
don't think they
God, I'll
got a
have to
name for
look.
that. Maybe it's
I
just a
don't know if
baby
they have a
moose.
name.
Mikey baby moose. I don't know. But
Maybe.
but yeah, that's it for the premier games. We get into our last 2 games that were called live, and this game right here was I think this was game of the week before the last game of the season of the week, excuse me, as Miami took on Notre Dame, and Notre Dame really put on a show as well. They showed that these guys might actually be a very talented group and competitors in the ACC this year. I know they are independent in real life, but they are part of the ACC within our college series. So we wanted to keep that team around. So they are associated with that conference. And they made it close. They made it close to the point where, Miami, they were able to score towards the end to get that cushion of that 2-score lead up by 10. And then Notre Dame was able to get down the field. It was a great drive by Buckner, who I was calling Butchner throughout the game. But Buckner got down the field and he was able to score and make it a 3-point ball game. Couldn't recover the onside kick, but a valiant effort at home and South Bend by the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, as they just fell short by 3 points, 23-20. We saw amazing performance by the poster boy right here, Louis Quintana. That boy had 2 sacks, had a scoop,
2
fumble
tackles
recovery
for
for a
losses.
touchdown. Yeah, he was balling. A lot of guys were balling within this game on the defense.
Not only that, let's give some props to Morgan Freeman, man.
Yeah,
Stephen King,
yeah.
14 tackles, 1 TFL, and 1 pick in this game. That guy's a stud. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No, I
you
was
off
done.
there.
I was
But
done. You can go into your spill. Oh yeah, Zayed Neal. He was a dog.
Zay and Neal.
He was a dog.
So there are some things that I kind of want to touch up on with this game, with Miami and Notre Dame. And this is nothing against Miami. I also think this Notre Dame team could be a lot better than they were a year ago. I also think they have just if they play like this for the rest of the year, they could be better than the CS3 team. From 2 years ago. I think I'm not gonna throw shade on Miami and think because they did blow them out last year, but this Notre Dame team compared to this year, I think it's very different.
Yeah.
And but still, I was kind of expecting more from Dorian, but I don't know how much is it really on Dorian, or is it more on
A lot of drops by his receivers within that game.
that? And this is going to be another issue that I think we're going to see for the rest of the year with this team is wide receivers not getting open, not getting separation. Now, of course, they'll get those plays of when Dorian has all day to throw in the pocket and everything, but this is going to be a struggle point for Miami, I think, for another year where the receivers aren't where they need to be, because I think Dorian is a much better quarterback than Puck,
Yeah.
and I don't know how much you want to put this game. And I feel like with Isaiah Allen, they got to give him the ball more. got to give him the ball more, in my opinion. But with Dorian, we were kind of expecting him to run the ball a lot more
I
than
was going to touch on
he
that at the
really
end. Yeah.
did.
And that's
But
kind of the big
when he
reason why it
did
was great.
run,
Yeah, that's what one of the big reasons why it was kind of great for that team for him to go there, because it's just like we knew that they had the lackluster receiving core, right? Yeah, at times they could
right,
go ahead and make a big catch. Jaheim Devontae made a couple big catches, big grabs, really towards the end of the game to really set them up. But they still aren't this elite receiving core by any means,
it's
and
the
you want
consistency
that
throughout
quarterback.
the game, like we saw with Ohio State or Tennessee, where weapons like who can I go to? Oh, he is open here. Oh, he is open here. They
Yeah,
don't have that guy, in my
yeah, and
opinion. That's
Dorian,
like
that's why I wanted him to use his legs more. I was expecting him to use his legs more. He started using it towards the end of the game. He had a couple runs, but
the
like,
very key
yeah,
moments of when they were tied. Those were very clutch because we were right, just like you said throughout the game. It's like, when are you going to run, Dorian? Because you're just standing there and you can't find anyone open. And then when he did, they were big time plays.
yeah. So yeah, that's
Uh,
that's kind of my thoughts on it. Anything else you want to add on the game before
I
we move on to the
think
last one?
really quick, if there's a big concern with Miami this year, also I got to give them a lot of credit for this. 14 points off of turnovers in this game. The very first play is
Scoop and
a
score, forced
scoop and
fumble.
score, and then Jay Hayden, man, I got to give you some props. I've talked to that guy throughout the offseason and everything. Very impressive game for him. Very clutch pick there right at the end there of when Miami was up 16-20, which
Yeah,
really allowed Miami to go and get that score. To make the score 23-20. Um, but Isaiah Neal, he had a very impressive day. Brian Schneider had himself a good game. Also have a receiver, Harris, I believe was his name, who had
yeah,
two
generic.
touchdowns in this game. Yeah. I think Buckner is going to be really good for this team, but if there's one concern with Miami besides the receiver spot, if Isaiah Neal is running for 116
16.
yards and they face like a really good running back, because that has kind of been the strength of Miami too. Like,
Definitely.
I don't think you're going to be able to throw the ball on these guys, but if you're able to run the ball on these guys and keep them honest, I think that could be an issue down the line if they play a team that has a quarterback that can complement a really good running back. Because that was a valiant effort by Isaiah Neal. So, but yeah, good luck trying to throw on these guys. Jay Hayden looked really good, and Savage had a big play where it looks like the Irish were getting things going, and Buckner had a guy like wide open in the middle of the field, and Xavier Savage just came across the screen and broke that up. That was a pretty awesome defensive play to watch. But those are just the two concerns that I have, and just like with week one, I feel like week one is always overreaction, most overreaction week because it's only 1 week. So, can these things get fixed, and will the run defense be a lot better? But if there's something I don't think is an overreaction, is the receiving core for Miami. I think is definitely going to be an issue for them the whole entire year. But this was a good game, and no shade to the Canes at all. I think the Fighting Irish are a much better team than they are last year. So congrats to the Canes, man, on getting that win.
Yeah, 23-20. Once again, the final score to reiterate. And then our last game to recap here is what I would say was the game of the week to take over that Miami and Notre Dame game. UGA is the reason the headliner of this podcast is are the Georgia Bulldogs legit this year? Because the showing they had, even though this game was close, the showing they had was very impressive on both sides of the ball. And Jaden Young came out there looking smooth. He got the 9 on last time we saw a 9 on the quarterback at Georgia.
It's on
It
Cash.
was an undefeated season for a national championship. And then the run game really wasn't going like that. You saw Gary had the most carries, 24 carries for only one touchdown. No, I mean 24 yards off of 10 carries for just one touchdown. But of course he's splitting the carries with 5-5 as we like to call him, McLaughlin. And then, of course, the player of the game it was, of course, the
This man,
record-breaking tight end, and I think is going to, off the rip, we can say this might be the best tight end off the series. If he continues this, he might be the best tight end we've ever seen in the college series. And this is just off of one game. That's how great he played. But 15 receptions, 218 yards,
218
and a
yards,
touchdown.
including an
It was
80-yard,
unguardable.
not just a touchdown, a 78-yard touchdown, if I
I think it was
remember
like 80,
correctly.
83
Something
yards,
like,
where
yeah.
this guy broke the tackle after making the catch, then outran the defense
Data
for like
man
70 more
out.
yards. So, dude is crazy. Shanahan had a rough start to the game, had a few interceptions, but did end up throwing more touchdowns than interception at the end. It was 3 for 2. And then, of course, we saw some good running out of Clark. We expect him to be pretty solid after what we saw from the scrimmages, and then some big plays from Sebastian Black and Donovan Faulkner, the
Donovan.
wide receivers. But at the end, Oregon put up a good fight, and Georgia able to get their get back, man. 33-28 the final score. Excuse me, Patrick, what you want to do? Get into? I mean, it is Pat still. Yeah,
I
I know
like
it's
going by
pecan.
Pat.
Pecan's better.
Pat
Yeah,
though.
we'll go pecan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Pat does
Um,
sound pretty weird on you. I ain't gonna cap about that.
yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, we're gonna keep
So
Pat for the other
Jada
guy.
Young, man, Jada Young, he's Tyon's
Jada
little
Young
brother
man.
or cousin.
Jada
Jaden
Young
Young,
man.
man.
Oh, I'm with
Jaden Young, man.
Jada Youngin. So
Jaden
Jaden
Young.
Young.
So Jaden Young, that was a impressive showing from him. The only knock that you can say really on him was that he fumbled the ball twice, and one ended up being a scoop and score for the Oregon defense. And I think there was one time that they got into the red zone and he fumbled the ball as well, and Oregon recovered it.
Oh, that
So
fumble that was scooped and scored by Legend Bell, that was Bush, the tight end, who balled out, and he lost the ball off that fumble.
okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and then it got
So,
scooped.
but still, I mean, Jaden Young had a very impressive performance. He's Tyon's cousin or
I think it's
little
his brother.
brother.
Yeah, this is his brother. Not like same mom,
Whew!
same dad, but there, yeah,
Right. Can't wait till the Tennessee and Georgia game,
that's
man.
gonna be
That
fire.
one. Let me just say, guys, I hope your linebackers are ready for the rest of the year because good luck covering this Jaden Bush guy. This Jaden to Jaden connection, I think, is going to be lethal throughout the whole entire year. I've never seen a tight end play like that
Ever
a series ever, or even in the
in
RFL
Madden,
pros.
I haven't seen period.
I've never seen a performance quite like that. And 218 yards is absolutely insane for a tight end. Um, but Georgia, the secondary, they don't have Quan anymore, man. So they were able to
Man,
be
shout out
great
Quan
on.
Quan.
Shout out Quan,
I said
man.
shout at Quan Quan. Don't
Oh,
get that dude a shout out. Give him a shout
oh.
out.
I mean,
He was
because that
nice at
was that
TCU,
was
but
the
yeah.
that was the big issue. It felt like for the Bulldogs because they had CC and Braylon King Moore on the other side. So it always felt like the last 2 years. All right, we can't do anything on the left side of the field, so let's attack the right side, and that ended up being a issue for them. But who is it on that side? I think is it Cavo Washington that's
Kivo
on that
Washington,
side?
yep.
Yeah, on the right side, and the strong safety. I can't remember his name. I know
We got
Perry,
Perry, and then
free
we had
safety.
Tiger Montana.
Montana. That's right. So Tiger and Kivo on that side, man. Like, because there were some times where Ronnie tried to take some very deep shots, and that's what kind of this Oregon team does, as we saw them throughout the game when they finally was able to get the ball to Sebastian Black and Donovan, but in the key moments, the Bulldogs were able to shut that down, and it was a very impressive showing. The Bulldogs, man, and I think this is going to be a scary team to watch, man, because if no one can cover this Jaden Bush guy, this is going to be an issue to watch out for.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even need.
And that's not even including, like, we saw Keyshawn Taylor make some good catches. We know about
Castillo.
Rob Castillo, so it's like these guys got some weapons, man. If this quarterback plays like this, I know they got another wide receiver. I guess that's it, yeah. And they actually have a generic wide receiver, Eric Estrada. He made one big catch throughout the game, but we still haven't seen anything from him. So they got weapons, man. They definitely got
The
weapons.
one thing I will say that is worrisome, if there's a worry on the Georgia offensive part, is that if your passing game can't get going, or if Jaden Young, isn't throwing lights out, can you get the running game going with Gary and 5-5? Because they really, I mean, they didn't need to run the ball here. They were having success through the air against this Oregon Ducks defense, but that's going to be a concern to look out for. But just like I said, it's one game. You can't really put too much stock in it. But I mean, as we know with Georgia, the last 2 years, they haven't exactly been one of the best running teams, really. So, but if Jaden Young could finally be that guy that this Bulldogs team has been searching for since Kai Cash was the quarterback, this could finally be the year of the Bulldogs, man. But Oregon, I don't think this is too much to hang your head. Keep your head up. Really, this is a tough team to play in your very first game. I mean, let me just say, Chris Clark, man, this guy looks like a stud. Oh,
Yeah,
it's against Georgia, man, but he had
92 yards.
132 total yards.
Yeah,
And
he was killing the pass.
his spin move is one of the best I've seen in the
Yeah.
college
I
series.
was hitting him with the Eddie Lacy. I was like, yo, this guy reminds me of Eddie Lacy because there's one guy like not Georgia, Alabama, in real life. Man, I remember when he used to pull out that spin move. It was so smooth, so efficient. I was like, hey, man, he reminds me of, him when he hits that spin.
So the thing is, if there is a time of when Oregon plays up a cupcake team, um, there is a time when Oregon plays a cupcake team. That's what I want to watch because I want to see how many yards Chris Clark is going to get in that game.
He
Because
might
I
he
can
definitely
only
got some
imagine.
opportunities because I mean it's the Pac-12 and we've seen Pac-12 over a couple years other than those top two teams really in Washington.
Yeah, when he plays Arizona State, Clark is probably. Oh, I think he's going to feast in that one. If you're already letting Washington run for 133 yards, just wait to see what Clark is going to do because I mean, he played against the Georgia defense and everything. That was just tough, but I mean, still, I think he had a very impressive showing. I also do got to give a shout out to Garrett Evans in his first game back.
Yeah.
10 tackles for 2 tackles for loss and 1 forced fumble in this game. Yes, your team lost, but he had a very impressive showing in his first game back in CS5 after missing all of CS4. And another shout out that I know only CS3 guys know, but the brother, man, the brother. Chad Ward, Ryan Ward, got himself 2 sacks in
Redemption.
this game, in this showing. So got to give Ryan Ward some love there. He had a pretty good game getting 2 sacks. So,
Yeah.
really quick, I got to put me on mute.
All right, but
Yeah,
yeah, that
go.
that's it for the games for the recaps. And so now, guys, we'll be moving into the top 25 rankings. And before I do show the top 25 ranking, guys, I do want to say, guys were saying, hey, for the top 25, you can't go over somebody who's above you. Well, that depends on where we're at in the season. Since this is the first part of the season, I pretty much just made a list of where I think guys are. This is where you're going to see a lot of things more than likely shift in the beginning because we got to see each team play. So based off of their performance and how they did against others, that's really going to dictate where guys fall in my decisions on the top 25. So here we go with the top 25 heading into week 2. As for anybody else who doesn't know, the top 25 also goes off of record first in the RFL. It is not based off of how the real college football top 25 rankings goes. So if you want to know, you're already in the top. You're a 1 through 16 team. So at number 1, Ohio State stays there. Miami jumps up to number 2. Alabama falls down to number 3. Georgia jumps up to 4. Tennessee at 5. USC 6. Michigan 7. LSU 8. Penn State 9. Texas 10. Florida 11. South Carolina 12. Louisville 13. Texas A&M 14. Oklahoma State 15. And Maryland, the last team to win this past week, at 16. Then we go into the best losers, I guess, for the second half, as we have Oregon at 17, Baylor at 18, Notre Dame 19, Oklahoma 20, Clemson 21, Auburn 22, Wisconsin 23, Washington 24, and TCU 25. So thoughts on the top 25 rankings here, Pecan?
Welcome to the top 25, Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State.
Welcome to the top 25. I don't know when was the last time or if they've ever been in your top 25, Smitty.
Probably early on, if they ever won a game
Maybe,
the first
yeah.
week, then yeah, this
right.
kind of, and it's a lot of people, this has happened the last couple of years in the college series where dudes get all bent out of shape about the ranks, like, yo, how's this team? And we know they're not good. I was like, okay, we understand that, but it always comes down to the truth in the end. Always. And
it always does.
Teams,
it literally does work itself there in the end. And you guys will start to understand why Smitty does the rankings. Like, it's not your traditional top 25. Let's be honest. In reality, Oregon's not the 17th best team. They are not. And I think you and I can agree that they're not the 17th best team.
Yeah, they would be better than some of these teams that are ahead of them right now.
Yeah. Right. They just lost to one of the most impressive teams from the weekend and everything. But, just like you were saying, it all is going to work itself out. And I know folks will learn there soon of how your rankings work. Miami jumped Alabama, correct?
Yeah. They jumped Alabama because I just wasn't satisfied with that UCLA showing. So it's just like,
was not satisfied with that as well. I definitely agree with Georgia jumping Tennessee because they beat Oregon compared to Auburn and everything. I'm not really shocked here. It's still early in the season. Still can't wait to see how it all goes, But like teams like Maryland or Baylor or OU, these are teams that we should at some point see them more higher up the standings as more games get played, because I don't know how long some of these other teams are going to be up here. But I don't have any issues really with the top 25. Of course, I don't have any issues who's at number 1. So really, just like I said, we just got to see some more games getting played. I do agree with keeping TCU at 25 just because, look at who they played. And honestly, out of their showing, look at who they played, and I still think that they'll have a chance to be a lot better throughout the year.
Yeah. So once again, for guys who don't know, that this will be getting posted on social media. If not tonight, it'll definitely be up tomorrow. But that is your top 25 rankings. And so now we'll get into our final segment of the podcast, which is jumping in and giving our predictions for this upcoming week for CS5. So week 1 in the books. Here goes week 2 schedule. So the first game,
really quick, Smitty, really, really quick. Sorry. Texas and Oklahoma State are leading the Big 12.
Yeah.
One. It's not going to last, but did not see that coming. But sorry, go on.
Oh, good, man. But first game, SEC matchup. You saw what Florida was able to do. Huge upset in week 1 against Baylor. And then Auburn, yes, they tried to put up a little fight, a little something. But at the end of the day, got pummeled by Tennessee. And I'm trying to pull up the spreads right now so I can come up with what I had as people predicted to win.
My notes, again, I have the spreads on here too, Smitty. Just let
cool.
you know if you want me to bring that up.
Okay, cool, yeah. And also, when it comes to this, I've already recorded some of these games, but that's the reason why I put the spreads out first before I record them. So I don't lie, I don't just change anything up just because now I know the result. I will speak on the why I believe that at first, and of course I post it before I record any game. So these are really my true thoughts on who I feel will win this week. So Florida, I got them winning by a field goal or more.
I will say to JoJo Carter though, man, just be careful with all that betting. I could tell that is a betting man. If there's anyone that likes to bet in the
Well, that's a
RFL,
good thing you bring up the betting, because I know guys are
there
starting to
is
say,
a
yo, stay
difference.
away
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the betting. But now that I've
If you
actually
like to
made it,
bet, do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like it's significantly cheaper now to bet. You're not losing too much. Now, if you're constantly going on an L streak, I mean, it could total up, but
Maybe you
that's
should
like,
stop.
yeah, that like, but like now I even incorporated where you don't have to use the spreads. Like, so if you even just guess the correct teams, you could come out on top with some reloads. So I think the betting system now, this is the, like, if you like to bet, really start betting now your reloads, because you're not going to lose too much unless you get a little risky with it. And even if you get risky, I think our highest price point is that you're just going to lose 250 reloads. That can be gained literally from you taking a screenshot, but times four.
Right.
So
Right.
it's
It's
like,
not like you're going to lose out on a bunch of.
yeah. So now I think
You,
guys should definitely bet. That this is really going to give guys a lot of opportunity to be able to bet of those set amounts, and try to get some reloads, man. And I always wanted to try to get the bets kind of going a little bit more. But we did have a system where it was like he was losing a lot and barely winning anything. So definitely had to change that up. Shout out to Coach Back too for simplifying that in the Discord with the little graphic thing, Excel sheet he made. But yeah, Auburn and Florida. I said I got the Gators by 3 or more. Excuse me. Who you got, Beer? Pecan.
I'm putting down a little note because I saw a comment in the YouTube chat that I kind of want to come back to just as a little dig. But Florida and Auburn, man. That's like I said. I mean, this could be the year of the running quarterback. I mean, for CS3, we didn't see it.
Any really?
Like
Yeah.
it didn't exist. And then CS4, we kind of start to see that again, like, with Ronnie, um, Dorian, Tyon, like we kind of got to see some running cornerback play. But this year with AR, man, this is
He's out there.
guys, be careful playing this Florida team, man. If you don't have a linebacker that has speed and that can spy, that's why, like, if there's anything watching Ohio State play, we kind of got that on lock with, Ferragamo and Brock. But uh, this is going to be a tough team to, I think, stop because they are going to run that ball with AR. If they get into a spot where the passing game isn't going, AR is going to take off. Auburn, go through Spears as best as you can. Do not get down early. Give the ball into Spears' hand, and just try to make sure you don't have the game where Don Beck is going to be your guy throwing the ball the whole entire game. Because, I mean, what happened in the Tennessee game we all saw. I have Florida winning this game. Florida, find the CS2 results because the CS2 playlist kind of stopped at week 10. I don't know why that is. And ever since ever since the page got hacked a long time ago, all the other College Series videos are still kind of
Yeah.
missing. So
Yeah.
I haven't been able to find all of the results. So I couldn't find the CS2 result. But Florida's going into this game 2-1 all time against the Auburn Tigers. They lost the last two meetings. They beat them 34-23 and 25-17 the year before. So I expect Florida to go into Jordan Hare. In Jordan Hare? Yeah. So I expect him to go in to Auburn to get the win in this game. And I expect him by 2 or more. 2.5 was the spread.
Yeah.
3. I can see them winning by 10, honestly.
All right. All right. Game number 2 on Thursday. We have a good rematch from last year
Friday.
because, oh yeah, Friday, my bad. Yeah, a good rematch because last year Texas was able to upset Alabama, and so now Texas takes on Alabama at is it Bryant Denny Stadium for Alabama?
Bryant Denny
Yeah, where they
Stadium.
play at.
Yep.
Yeah, so the Auburn I said Auburn. Alabama Crimson Tide, number 3 team
You
in the
just made
country.
so many
Yeah.
Alabama fans mad with
Yeah.
what you just said.
So Alabama hosting number 10 Texas. Both teams 1-0, and I have Alabama winning though by 4 more points, even though they didn't have as impressive of a week 1 against UCLA.
So this was just like you said. I mean, this was the shocking upset of week 2 last
Except
year,
week
just
2,
because
it was probably a seat. Was that what you heard?
I didn't hear
I didn't
anything.
hear anything. Yeah, no.
Um, oh, this was a very shocking upset because I don't think anyone really. I mean, Alabama had a 13-3 lead going into that game. And then Texas, Jordan Granger. This was when we really got to see. I mean, he had a impressive showing the week before against Washington, but this was a game where Jordan Granger was able to shut. Even though last year, if you do remember, they Alabama did kind of get screwed on a controversial call
Yeah,
there at the end. I don't know if you remember that or not, but
yeah.
Alabama kind of got screwed on a controversial call when Texas was trying to tie it. It's kind of hard to say just because with Tech, I mean, the only time that Texas looked good was in the second half against Clemson and Alabama. We just expected more from UCLA, but I think Alabama plays a full 4 quarters in this game. I don't think there's any comeback this year. I think Alabama does win this game by 4.
All right. Next game we have Washington versus UCLA. So UCLA put up, I guess you could say, a bit of a fight once again against Alabama. They're hosting Washington. Washington came off a L as well. And they're hanging on the top 25, just barely at 24. I do have Washington with their bounce back here, winning by 4 more points.
This is also the Devin Diggs return home game.
Yeah. Yeah,
Devin
that's big
Diggs,
news.
going back to you, your old stomping grounds, man. If there's a game for Washington after losing like that to a team that I think if you would have pulled everyone a week ago on the Washington and Oklahoma State game, I bet you 99 out of 100 would have said Washington. So I mean, hey, this is a game, Washington, that you guys need to win this game, or we're going to start having some questions for you because you got Miami, I think, in week 3. So if
Starts to get
there's a
real.
time, yeah. So you had 2 games that you could have went into this 2-0, but um, don't look too far ahead. I know Devin Diggs is probably pumped up to play this game. He's finally getting to play against the team that he transferred from, but UCLA is probably going to want to play with some juice too. Like, they're like, hey, you didn't want to play for us anymore, and we see this defense still isn't that good. Um, but fun fact about this series, so UCLA won it in CS1, Washington won it in CS2, UCLA won it in CS3, Washington won it in CS4. That means I'm going to make my first bold pick. I think UCLA beats Washington in this game.
Ooh.
I know it's a bold pick, and if I'm wrong, I'll get belled for it, but something concerns me with this Washington team. Maybe it's an overreaction to how it went with, against Cowboys, but I don't know. I just think, Washington defense, man. If there is a game, Samaj Sims, he had a pretty big game against Oklahoma State. This is a game that I want to see another great performance from Samaj Sims. And who's the other guy for Washington? I don't think it
EJ
was also
Bailey.
EJ Bailey. That's right. Yep, EJ Bailey. I feel like I just.
Scratching the
Oh yeah,
chest on him.
RJ Freeman. RJ
Yeah.
Freeman.
Yeah, RJ Freeman.
That's his name. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. So yeah. Um, I got UCLA with the upset.
All right. Next game we got Maryland versus West Virginia. We saw the massacre kind of in the sense in which we West Virginia went had Maryland looked pretty sound against Stanford, and I think that Maryland gets it done here by 4 more points.
Yeah. Wait, what is the spread? I had it down at 3.5. What is the spread?
Yeah, it's four. There's four more points that Maryland's got to win by.
West Virginia. I think this is going to be a tough year, guys. This is also a real life rivalry game as well. So, the last time they played, because Maryland has only been in the series since College Series 3. The last time they played, Grooms got that diving interception to end the game when they had Sean Jackson at quarterback. I think that was the
Yeah,
Maryland's quarterback name from
guy with the
two
visor.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Who had like 99 speed as his attribute in the one year that running quarterbacks didn't exist.
yeah. He was
So,
sick.
um, I don't know, man. I think this is going to be a struggle bus year for the West Virginia team, man. West Virginia, your goal have more offensive yards than kick return yards, please, because that was not good. Still, I expect Kozlov to have a big game after seeing what the Penn State running back was able to do, and Chalupi,
Bachelor.
Chagalupi,
Yeah.
Chagalupi. I feel like I'm saying like something in Mario language or something with that name. No, no, it's more like the Godfather. Like that's more like Chagalupi. You know, I think that's how you say. Throw me the ball, Bachagaloopy. So yeah, I want to see Maryland play. I think Maryland's going to win this game, and I think this is another one where I will take Maryland with the spread. I think they win this game by four or more.
All right, we got Florida State versus North Carolina. It's a lot of teams that got winning by four or more points. It's just more than a field goal, and that's North Carolina. So I got them at home. They're taking on Florida State. Florida State, I guess, put up a good battle against LSU this past week, but only 7 points on the board to show for. While we saw North Carolina against South Carolina, put up points and play pretty well, even though they came up short. So I'm going with the Tar Heels here at home by four more points.
I agree. I'm also going the Tar Heels here, but I wouldn't be shocked if Florida State actually does pull it out. I think they just ran into a really tough team with LSU because LSU has a lot of talent on that team. Uh, it's going to be fun to see ESJ and QPOC watching this game, so it's going to be fun to watch them talk about their teams and stuff like that. Some series history here, though. UNC, ever since they've been in the college series since CS3, they have won this game twice. Last year, they shut out Florida State at home, 29 to
Yeah, I
0.
remember that.
So UNC, yeah, you called that game if I remember correctly. Well, I think this will be a much better game than what it was last year, and I wouldn't be shocked if FSU does pull it out. Don't have North Carolina with the spread. I think they will win this game by 3. I don't think they will win by 4. So
Okay.
UNC wins, but only by 3.
Okay. Next game we got Penn State versus Louisville, and Penn State I got them winning by five or more points on the road. Even though Louisville looked pretty solid against Arizona State, but once again that's Arizona State. But then again, Penn
How
State
much was
only
that the
played West Virginia.
turnovers? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I'm definitely going with the Nittany Lions in this once again by five or more.
Yeah, this is going to be a kind of like a limit, like kind of like a test to see, hey, we both won a game that we're against some teams, like who is going to be actually for real. And I know I said this a week ago, but this is also to me like another underrated game of the week that I think could be a very fun game to watch. Um, Sean Clifford, the quarterback. They also have the running back and the wide receiver there, Caden Saunders. I think that's the wide receiver's name. Um, yeah, nothing against the Cardinals, man. I just think Penn State. I mean, honestly, like nothing against Miami, but I would have loved to seen Dorian on this Penn State team. So
Yeah.
I do think this Penn State team is a lot better than what they had in CS3 and CS4. Um, And Clifford is not Dorian Chavis by any means, but he is a very solid cornerback. I would take him over Malik Cunningham. They are going to have to rely on Steve Washington a lot. Um, but again, I do not have Penn State with the spread here. I think they will win this game by 3. But Penn State is my pick to win this game.
Texas A&M versus Miami. So you moved up to number 2, and of course Texas A&M getting that upset over Oklahoma week 1. But I got Miami winning by 6 or more points here at home at Hard Rock Stadium.
Miami again, their home game. So last year, this was a very interesting game, and if I remember, this was one of those
Pretty
games that
close.
started the talks of like, well, maybe this Miami team isn't all that or like something. But they ended up winning the game 24-10. But this Texas A&M team, this could be another team where it's like, hey guys, this isn't your same Texas A&M teams that we've seen for the last 2 or 3 years. I feel like this is a team that could possibly challenge Miami, but you got to go with the safe bet, man, and say that Miami's going to win this game. But still, I was very impressed with what Texas A&M was able to do against Oklahoma because the Sooners was a team that has a lot of talent. Like that's a lot of talented players on that team, and for Texas A&M to win the game like they did and control the time of possession and control the ball and not let Avery Rose do what he did, I mean, wouldn't shock me if Texas A&M pulls out the upset, but I still and I would take Miami in this game because that defense is for real. I think they're going to give Max Johnson all the problems in the world. I do have Miami winning this game, but also not with the spread. I have them winning this game by 4. I think this will be a much closer game than folks think, but Miami's my pick to win.
Okay, next we have Oregon versus Oklahoma State. I've got Oregon winning by 7 or more points here. They put up a really good fight against Georgia. Oklahoma State does look like a much improved team though compared to last year. So that spread could get a little dicey depending on the way you look at it. But I think that this Oregon team to put up a fight like that against Georgia, as great as they look, they should be able to get this victory here despite them being on the road. So I got them once again by a touchdown or more.
I agree with you there. I think Oklahoma State is going to come into this game thinking, man, I wish we were playing against Washington again because this is not the Washington defense, man. This is a better team. Um, Hell, this is their third game because Oklahoma State had to play on Oregon's field for the last 2 years. Oregon got 2 home games in a row for some reason. So Oregon, they ended up winning CS3 38-19. But last year, this was kind of the problem with Oregon last year is that they would beat teams, like us and Georgia, but they would lose. They lost 44-20 last year against a worse Oklahoma State team. Ronnie Shanahan had 4 picks, 5 turnovers
Sheesh.
in that game. I think Ronnie will tell you he is looking for some revenge. They made Spencer Saunders, who was terrible last year, looked great. Like that's how bad it got for the Oregon Ducks against Oklahoma State last year. And I don't know. I just think this Oregon team is a lot better, even though yes, this Oklahoma State team is really better. But that was against a Washington State a Washington defense. I think Oregon wins this game. I agree with the spread here. I actually have them winning this game by 10. Um, we would like to see Chris Clark have himself a game. Like I like if there is a guy that makes me stop and want to watch like how this guy plays, it's him. I'm already a big fan of this guy's play, so
All right, then we finish off Saturday with a SEC matchup and another revenge game here for Georgia as they got quite the upset from South Carolina last time they played. And
oh,
Georgia got to win by 10 or more points. I think they will get it done.
Correction, Georgia did beat them last year. They
Oh,
got
the
their
following year before, was it the year
with
before?
CS3
Yeah,
when South
CS3. Yeah,
Carolina in their first year where they ended Georgia's 17, 18 game winning streak I think
yeah.
they had at that
Was that
time.
the opening week?
Oh, no, that was week 3. That was the same week that we
Okay,
lost to USC.
okay, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I definitely remember that last game that they lost to South Carolina. So they did trash them last year, but
But yeah, it
definitely a
was
sour taste.
yeah, it was 38 to 14 last year.
Yeah, so
They
they did them
finally got
dirty.
their yeah.
But now it's a
Um
double up. They could double up. I got them winning by. I think they will by 10 or more points though.
I agree with that. I mean, when you let Drake May for a 73 overall throw like he did against this defense, this is another game that I could see Jaden to Jaden connection being nasty this whole entire game. If there's a blowout, I'm predicting Smitty it's going to be this game, and I think it's going to get ugly really fast. I have Georgia winning this game 42 to 17.
Sheesh.
I like and we could be wrong, but I just think after watching what UNC did against this South Carolina defense, even though South Carolina has been that team, just like we have said back in CS3, no one picked them to beat the Georgia Bulldogs in CS3, but um, and they were kind of that team in CS4 too, where they would beat teams that no one saw them beating, but um,
That boy Alec
not
Rett.
this
Remember him? Mike Jeffers in the
like
backfield.
Red Jeffers, yep, and
Lonnie Stills.
Stills, yep,
Rucker.
Stills.
Ryan
So
Rucker.
another one, man. That was a pretty solid core, but they're not there anymore. Georgia, I think, wins this game big time, and I think they will give Spencer Rattler all the problems in the world. So Georgia by huge.
All right, then moving on to our Sunday games, 1 p.m. Eastern. We have LSU versus Iowa. I've got LSU by more than a field goal in this game. Just
Kind of
simply
shocks me a little bit. I at least think the spread would have been bigger on that.
bigger. Yeah, I kind of liked how they performed against USC. So I was just like, well, let me see how that goes. So I feel like Iowa might be able to do a little something, but I still don't got them winning the game. Like I said, what's your thoughts on that?
This is another game. I'm sorry to the Iowa fan who shows up and watches the RFL games, man. I think this is going to be another tough game to watch your boy Petrus. I don't know if I'm ever saying his name right. I just know he's terrible in real life, but LSU. Just like I said, I mean, in last week's game, all they did was just kind of go out there like Alabama and just won the game. They didn't do anything flashy, didn't do anything that wowed you. But if there's a game that I want to see them like, hey, show us that like you got all this new talent this year. I want this to be the game of where you show me like, hey, we can contend Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee, and have them winning this game by at least 20 or more points. I think Iowa's going to be. I mean, I think Iowa's going to be along with UCLA and West Virginia as one of the worst teams in this year's college series. So LSU wins.
Okay, then we got USC versus Stanford. I think this is the biggest spread I have of the week. Yeah. So I have USC winning by more than 10 points. So 11 or more points on the road at Stanford. So what's your thoughts on that?
So USC and Stanford has played 2 times. Here are the scores: 37 to 15 in CS3. Our guy Daniel Silverio had a touchdown in that game. CS4 they won 45 to 27. Now that was a Stanford offense that was led by Danny Montgomery, Grayson.
Okay.
Stanford team is Finn Fowler cannot do it by himself. Like, if I'm Finn, I'm also going to try and recruit as heavy as I am. I kind of saw this coming because Stanford in real life has not been what we saw from them like in the early 2010s. So I kind of expected this roster to kind of not be great. and it really showed against the Maryland Terps. Cinco, I think he's going to go out there and throw another Cinco day, man. It's going to be another 4 touchdowns for him. So, no, 5. I
Yeah,
almost
that would be
just
fun.
pulled a Cinco Cardenas. So,
Yeah.
but I think he's going to go out there and have himself a day and throw 5 touchdowns in this game. I think Grant, guys, folks need to start watching him because I think he's going to be a stud on this USC offense. So USC, you got another light game for you in week 2, but I have USC and the spread. I think this is going to be a blowout.
All right, in our final 1 p.m. game for Sunday, we have Baylor taking on Arizona State. So both teams taking a loss in their first game. Of course, Arizona State's was much worse, and of course, Baylor are the
Yeah.
heavy favorites to win this one by 10 or more points.
Both teams are going into this game with a weird feeling, man, because like Baylor, they had the win against Florida and everything, and then Arizona State, like they 5 turnovers, a very pathetic showing, but the 5 picks. Now, if everyone remembers last year, this was in Arizona State 1. This was the read option game. This was,
Yeah.
Otomo's doing too much of the the read option, and Arizona State shocked the Baylor Bears, winning 25-17. So this is a revenge game for the Baylor Bears. Instead, it's going to be at Sun Devil Stadium. I saw Cross say a comment at being ranked number 18 is very new for the Baylor Bears. Correction there. After you guys lost to Arizona State and that team up north, you guys got as low as number 19 last year. So you guys have been here before. It's not for long. So nothing against Baylor, but I think this is a team that Baylor can eat and really dominate. If there's a defense, Arizona State, this is the game for you guys because the word is this Baylor defense isn't as good as it was a year, as it has been the last 2 years. And if there's a game for Vladimir to get right and Armani for him to get back into, I think this is the game. But I still think Baylor gets their get back and win this game huge. I have them winning this game at least 31-17, but they don't blow the 31-17 lead in the fourth quarter.
All right, and then we get into our 4 p.m. Games. We have Wisconsin versus Oklahoma. This should be a pretty solid game because, once again, Wisconsin has improved a lot off the base. And Oklahoma just looked very pedestrian in their week 1 loss. So they do have the home field advantage. I'm going to go with Oklahoma, though, in this one by 3 or more points.
I agree. I think OU, if there's a get back game for OU, this is a game for them. Just like you said, this is a very impressive. I mean, this is not the same Wisconsin we've been seeing, but I know OU has a really sour taste in their mouth. I don't think they were expecting to come in to week 2 as a 0-1 team. So in my opinion, this is already a very important games in my eye because they have USC coming up soon. So these are games that the Sooners need to be winning. I do have them winning this game and beating the Badgers, but I will take that spread as well.
All right, in our last premier game, TCU versus Tennessee. I'm going with the Tennessee Titaneers here in this one at home by 6 or more points.
So if anyone knows the history with Tyon, this was the last game that he played in CS4 before he got suspended for 4 games. So this is a game obviously that Tennessee lost last year when they played on TCU's field. They lost 24-16, and then after that, Tyon was suspended for 4 games. Another tough break for Tanner Hendricks and Amir Daniels. This is a tough team to come out and play in your first 2 weeks, Ohio State and Tennessee. So I have Tennessee winning this game. What is the spread by?
Got
I have
them
by
by
six or
six.
more.
Yep, six or more.
I have Tennessee winning this game, not by a whole lot. I still think this TCU is better than what we saw in week one, but I have Tennessee winning this game in a comfortable fashion.
All right, and then we get to our final two games, and on uh, Sunday night we close out with Ohio State versus Clemson. I got you guys winning by 7 or more points, of course, obviously because of biases that could raise up from this. I know who you're going to choose, and of course, with being the number one team in the country. But what would you say? What would you say that Ohio State would have to worry about, if anything, when it comes to playing Clemson?
So I kind of had a feeling of that because I think we all know who I'm going to pick.
Yeah.
Instead, I wrote down like the keys that I think in this game to watch out for. And I think that is going to be the Clemson wide receivers versus the Ohio State defensive backs. Saw that two Clemson wide receivers had over 100 yards against a Texas defense that doesn't have any prospects on it. You know, they don't have really any cornerbacks that really wowed me. So now let's see these guys go up against Wardell Mack and Xavier Spriggs. So to me, I think that's a key matchup to watch for in this game. And of course, with Clemson, you know, if they had trouble scoring in the red zone against Texas, what are you going to do against the Ohio State defense when you get into the red zone? So those are my keys to look out for. And I think we all know who I'm picking. So.
Uh, and then well, I guess I can ask this one thing just about that real fast. So, do you think since you got your team winning, I got you guys winning as well, do you guys think you beat Clemson by a touchdown or more?
Yes.
All right. And the final game this is the game of the week, simply because of how they looked in week one. One team 0-1, the other team 1-0. The 1-0 team's got the home field advantage. It's Michigan. They absolutely dominated Wisconsin 49-17, as we mentioned earlier. Then, of course, for Notre Dame, they put up quite the fight against Miami, just losing by a field goal. The final score 23-20. And I got Michigan here getting it done, starting out the season 2-0, as Notre Dame will fall to an unfortunate 0-2 on the road there to take on the Wolverines. And I got them winning by 4 or more points.
I will say for Notre Dame, if the Wolverines look as legit as they do, I mean, this could be a year, or it could also be a two-headed race like we've been seeing in real life with us. If they play the way that they played against the Badgers, but in the college series, for some reason they didn't play in CS4. In real life, this is a big-time rivalry game. The Fighting Irish and the Wolverines, they have been playing heated matchups for a long time. And in the college series, they played each other. The Fighting Irish are 2-1. The last time that they played was back in CS3, where they beat them 31-24. I'm probably going to sound like a hater, but, I don't want to see the Fighting Irish go into their week 3 game against us 1-1, and I also want to see them I want to see that team lose. So so I'm going to take Notre Dame in this game. Close though, but I mean, here is the key though. Notre Dame, you got to be able to run the ball on these guys. Don't be like Mertz or Wisconsin and abandon the run game. Let's see how that defense plays. I think the Wolverines have talented receivers, better than what Miami has at their receiving corps. So that's going to be another big test for this Fighting Irish team. But I'm going to give the Fighting Irish the dub, man, because I know that they, was a tough loss to Miami because they gave everything they had. So I'm going to give them the upset win on this one.
All right, and that concludes our week 2 predictions going into starting this week on Thursday. And so that's it for the podcast in terms of areas that we are our topic points. And then now we'll leave it up to the community. If you guys want to ask any questions, you can. We got 8 minutes, so that'll put us right at the 2 hour mark. So 8 minutes for anybody who wants to ask any questions. If we don't see anything, we could go ahead and sign up out of here. But appreciate you guys once again for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button before you roll out, if you're going to roll out, and subscribe to Relocation Football League for more content if you are new and enjoying what you are hearing or have watched a few games. Man, become part of the RFL community today. League first in the building. Checking in the chat, we got still 31 guys live viewing right now, so we'll go ahead and tune in for the chat just to see if we got anything. This is, will a win against Penn State give Louisville some respect around the community? I believe it will. Penn State's solid. Now, will it give you the utmost respect? Be like, oh, snap, Louisville, that team. Nah, I don't think it'll do that. I think it will make it seem like you're one of those, like, you guys' teams, one of those
Like a
middle of the
team to
pack.
watch out for,
Yeah.
maybe like
Like, they
like
could
maybe this is
upset
a
you,
team on the
but
rise.
yeah, something like that.
Oh, if you want to know a game that will get Louisville the most utmost respect, in my opinion, beating Miami.
Yeah.
You guys will have them at home this year. So if you want respect this year, me beating Miami on your own field will be huge. But if you guys lose to Penn State, I don't think that's going to be a knock on you guys. I mean, and even if you do win, it's going to be great. Like, you're 2-0, but after this weekend, there will probably still be many teams who are 2-0 that aren't going to be 3-0 or 4-0 after a few games. So,
Yeah.
let's look at who
Hugh
Louisville.
says, who would be your players of the week if y'all had? I was trying to work on that. Actually, Beazle did hit me up. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a conference players of the week for each conference, offense and
I
defense.
was thinking about
So
that too, Smitty, while I was doing all of this.
yeah, so I'm trying to definitely make something with that. I of course couldn't do it because I don't have a graphic yet, but like I said, Bees did hit me to try to design that, so we're gonna probably have that going. If not next week, this coming week, then the next week in week 3. But of
I can
course,
help
gotta
out
put, if
on
we had to
that one
choose
too.
one, if you're talking about 5 guys on each side, I'm not going to do the conference right now, but in general, if you had to say a player of the week, offensive player of the week, in general, definitely has to be the guy who
And
graces,
Bush.
yeah, Bush. uh 218 yards as a tight end has never been seen in the college series or the pros. uh Remarkable showing. Defense wise, a lot of candidates, man.
Quintana played
Yeah,
great. Caden
Quintana definitely had a great stat line.
Ferragamo from Ohio State. Annie Rojas, Garrett Evans. There was a lot of guys that
Yeah,
it's
it's
really
tough
kind of
on the
hard.
defensive side of the ball. It's really tough. I guess if you're talking about stat lines, it would probably have to be between Wyatt Harris and Louis, Luis
And
Quintana. Yeah,
Quintana.
Luis Quintana. Yeah.
One thing I will add, and I'll help you out too on that, Smitty, while I do my breakdowns and stuff like that. Really quick, I do want to add on to the whole Louisville. So, if you guys do beat Penn State this weekend, next game for them is against West Virginia. So there's a good chance that they can go into that Miami game for 3-0.
Yeah.
So that will be huge, and I know Louisville is going to be wanting that game. So
Yeah, guys kind of repeating the same thing. Guys saying Quintana for defense. Everyone saying Bush for offense for sure. Uh,
also Q, no, I did not. Q, I just not all the way up
it says
there.
beating Miami is one thing, but if you really want respect, beat Miami in Hard Rock.
They gotta wait
Says,
another year. They gotta wait another year. I mean, Miami isn't going to give it to them, but I mean, if they beat Miami, if they beat them, I don't think it matters of what field that they're on. So,
yeah.
oh, Ross asked a
Our
question that
injuries
I
on.
forgot to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so injuries are off for the college series due to like some depth chart issues. I didn't want that to really spiral the game out any type of way. You guys will be having your stamina. One thing that was 100% certain in the college series, that from when you get drafted, that's going to transfer 100% over, is your stamina, your toughness, and injury rating. So, at the end of the day, coaches do have access to see what those were due to the fact of the streaming that showed you guys. And so they will know at least what those ratings are for you guys coming out of the draft, to see who's durable, who's got injury issues and stuff like that. So it kind of answers itself on who's injury prone, as opposed to seeing it on the field. And I don't have to manipulate that.
Another thing is and this was another thing I forgot to bring up. Smitty did confirm to me last week that for the live games, Smitty is doing what the weather is actually going on in that area.
Yeah, and that's actually been a thing. So it's like
just in case if anyone wanted to know.
Didn't know all the weather. Now, if it comes to Premier games, all I do is put it on partially cloudy all the time. So we're not going to have no weather in Premier games. Because I can't predict or look in, I'm not going to do all that for Premier games because I got to record so many. So it's just going to be partially cloudy every time. And I don't want to put it on random because then it'll just probably snow or rain when it shouldn't, something like that, real crazy.
In Southern California.
Yeah, so we're not doing that. But yeah, let's see what else we got here. Spring King had 1 pick, 14 tackles. Yeah, he balled out too. Miami guys gonna put their guys on. Got 2 minutes of questions here, so if anybody got another question we can ask, maybe we can ask 1 to 2, answer 1 to 2 more here live. No blizzards, nah, unless they have a blizzard, and especially because of the time. By the time to see, okay, we could probably have some, because I think the season ends like November, like mid-November, when their national championship game would probably be. So we'll probably have some weather games like that with snow. But honestly, the way the seasons and the weather's been in real life as of lately, I've been seeing it hasn't been like snowing or anything for the most part until like January. I remember it used to snow and you used to have those type of weather conditions, and like November, December used to actually snow on Christmas. I haven't seen it snow on Christmas for like 5-6 years now.
It's like the other thing is that our season kind of, now we did get a later start than we did last year, so we will go into November just by a little bit, but I don't expect us to see any snow games or anything unless something crazy. Yeah, unless something crazy. But most bowl games are played in warm weather areas like Florida, Texas, California. Answer, no, UNGA is a live game on Saturday night.
It's on a premiere day, but I'll be calling that. So I always close out the premiere days with one game that gets called, which you guys are part of on Saturday. But yeah, we've reached our time at 10:30. I appreciate you guys tuning in to the RFL podcast, College Series podcast. As always, man, Pecan, of course, always excited to have you on here in the podcast for a second time. We'll be back on Wednesday, and then of course the season, week 2, will be starting out tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. Here's another look at the schedule. This will be getting posted on social media, so be on the lookout for another amazing week of CS5. With that being said, your boy Smitty, RFL Commissioner, Play-Commentator, and Pecan, and we're out.